Hello, welcome back to the podcast. It is now called My Life is a Fairy Tale, and I'll explain why in a little bit here. But yeah, it's been a bit, it's been a few weeks, and it's great to be back. I clearly will have a lot to talk about this episode because I don't know, there's a lot on my mind, and honestly, there doesn't seem to be some sort of niche with this podcast, and I think that's okay. I changed it because essentially I feel like I felt a little bit more trapped. And if you're in the entrepreneur kind of business world or digital marketing or anything like that, you know you should have a niche if you want to somewhat grow. But honestly, I was kind of like, I'm just doing this podcast more for fun. And if something comes out of it, great. But it's just for me to kind of rant, let what I feel come out, or be a little more creative with that. So I don't necessarily want to be put into some sort of niche, but generally I feel like this podcast is still more about self-development, lifestyle, all those things, maybe a little bit of entrepreneurship or just like business tips in general. But I don't know. This is kind of just a place where either I can tell a story or a guest can come in and tell their story or tell some sort of story that I find important and that I feel like the world should know about. Whether I have one listener or 1,000 listeners or anything like that. So I don't need a niche because I don't obviously it'd be great if this grew, but I don't need it to grow or anything like that. So if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It is what it is. All I'm here to do is hopefully help a few people out with their journey of whatever it might be in terms of self-discovery, confidence, motivation, starting that business that you've always wanted to do. I don't know what it is, but I'm hoping that I help someone throughout these episodes. So yeah, we are kind of restarting back to episode 1. All of the Coach Potato podcast is still up on the same feed or whatever it's called. It's also on YouTube still. So if you like those or you want to share those are still up there. And my story is still up there too. Episode 1 is pretty much my full story. And let's talk about why I changed the title. My life is a fairy tale. I've grown up thinking, not necessarily that fairy tales are real, but I grew up loving fairy tales. I was a little bit of a tomboy growing up, or I was called a tomboy because I was really into sports and being active and all that stuff. I'm not too sure why being active makes you a boy at that time, but that's another thing to unpack altogether. And essentially, the only thing that was, I guess, quote unquote, girly about me at the time, or I don't know why there were so many, it was very either boy or girl at the time. Anyways, was that I loved Disney princesses. I loved not necessarily being a princess, but I loved the idea of love or true love and all of that fun stuff. Like thinking about finding your prince and doing that and doing this and I don't know. Also, rom-coms have always been my favorite genre of movies and shows and stuff. Anything really cheesy, my thing. And for those of you, so I am 28. For those of you who were on Tumblr around what was it? Probably 2009 to 2011-ish. All of those corny things or those quotes on the pictures and reposting all those. I was around that generation too. So I was really into that too and very hopeful about finding true love and stuff like that, but also very mistrusting. I don't know. It was very weird, but I am a sucker for fairy tales. And honestly, I wanted my life to be a fairy tale. I've always wanted my life to be a fairy tale. I always thought my life was somewhat of a fairy tale. And my life isn't bad. I am very happy and grateful for the life I have. But obviously, your trajectory in life is not a straight line. You don't, like I've said probably in past episodes, is you don't just go through life on a straight line where, you graduate high school, You go to university. Right out of university, you get a job. You work at that job for like a million years. And then you also like probably find the love of your life. And then you get married. And then you move in together. And then you have a child. And then blah, blah, blah. And then retirement, blah, blah, blah. So your life doesn't necessarily go through that. And I learned that very, very harshly, obviously in 2017 when I lost my mom. When I missed my mom. I guess I do. No, just kidding. I do. Of course I do. When that happened, my life went everywhere. And now it's like the title of this podcast is kind of like really shaped how I kind of view my life. I do romanticize my life a lot. And Aaron has always told me, like, you know, your life is not necessarily a fairy tale when we were younger. So yeah, my partner and I have been together for like 11 years now. And like, he's always told me like the Prince Charming or whatever is like, or this rom-com is not necessarily real, stuff like that. Cause I always did believe in it and I always hoped in it. And like I said, I've always admired it and romanticized it. And it's not that he was saying that in a mean way, but just trying to put some reality into my brain and giving me some perspective on life and love and all that stuff, especially since we met and started dating really young. It's really important to have that perspective that, like, you know, your relationship's not going to be perfect. You're not going to move in and like fall in love all over again and then look like those couples that like move in and then like, I don't know what they do, but you know, where it's like super easy, super smooth, because life is just not like that. So back to the title again. The irony of my life is a fairy tale is that I want it to be a fairy tale, but really, life will never be a fairy tale. So here we are. And whether my episodes are talking about problems, whether my episodes are all about these happy moments or these stories about people, life is clearly not a fairy tale. And that's kind of like the message behind the show in a way, is that, you know, life sucks sometimes, all the time, whenever, but we just gotta live through it, and it is what it is. So learning how to cope with those things or learning how to deal with those things is going to be very important, or having that support system for those things is going to be super, super important. Now that we got that whole thing out of the way, yeah, like I feel like things have been good and bad the last few weeks. And I think that's okay. Like, I've been a very social butterfly, which is really weird because I do feel like I am an introvert if I were to label it. And I've been really working on this whole it's okay to be an introvert thing. So that has taken a lot out of me, actually. And also, you know, career shifting a little bit, like that's always hard. I just feel like there's a lot of changes going on right now in my life, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is overwhelming. And I had a lot of issues in terms of kind of feeling like I'm going backwards with my mental health or things like that. And like, I have a confession, even though I advocate to go to therapy a million times. I actually stopped for a few months because I don't know, it was like I wasn't fitting in with the therapist, or like it wasn't working, or I was scared to talk to them, and I don't know why. And just recently I signed up for BetterHelp, and honestly, this is not a sponsor. It'd be cool, but so we'll see how it goes. Like, it's super cheap. You can change therapists apparently, and I've only had my one session, so we'll see. I'll actually give a whole review on it one day, maybe, if you're interested. So far, so good, but it's only been the first week, and this is not an ad. I felt like because there's so many changes in my life, I had to go back to therapy, or I would literally go, unfortunately using this word, but I would literally go a little crazy. My mood has been everywhere. My energy's been everywhere. I don't know. Like, I'm very grateful for everything that's been happening lately, but I'm also very tired. And there's like a lot of changes happening, and I need to essentially find that professional support system on top of what I have already. I feel like I needed to add another professional like into the mix. And the reason I'm talking about this is that it's gonna take time to find that perfect interdisciplinary team for you, whether it be a physical injury or for your mental health or your mental illness. Like, things take time. It's like trying to figure out that drug for a specific illness. It's gonna take time. Everyone has different side effects. Everyone has a different way of viewing it. So yeah, essentially I started back on because things externally are going fine, but internally I'm going downhill, if that makes sense. So it was like a little bit of a desperate, like, I need to do this or else things are going to continue to go downhill, and we cannot have that right now. So that's my little confession, but I'm back on it. And after that first session yesterday, I feel on top of the world again. I feel like there's hope. I feel like all of these changes are gonna make me into a better person. Been doing a lot of work inside the last 3 years, as you can probably tell, and like understanding when I need something or someone, and like just doing it rather than sitting with my thoughts spiraling in a very unhealthy way. And I encourage you, obviously, to go to therapy however you'd like or see fit. I do genuinely think it helps if you find the right person or right way of doing therapy. Yeah. So that's a little update on my life. Outside of that, if you're on YouTube watching, I cleaned my bed. The bed's clean. Also, a little update on the foster cats. They're still here, and one is here forever. The male, I don't know where he is here forever. He's in the bedroom somewhere. And then the female, her and my dog don't really get along, but good news, she got adopted and she is leaving this week. So, quick thing about fostering. Oh my gosh, it's very rewarding, and we're actually getting 2 more. I know it's going to be a lot in this house, but I've just felt so happy and filled with purpose. It's interesting to find some sort of purpose outside of your work. Like, this is purely volunteer. I've had my dad ask me, like, why are you even doing this? I'm like, are you getting paid or you do blah, blah, blah? I'm like, no, there's a lot of, animals out there right now and not enough fosters, especially after the pandemic. And I just really wanted to help. And clearly I cannot adopt 10 cats or 10 dogs. Maybe I can in the future. That'd be super fun, but still very unrealistic. So I encourage you to find some sort of purpose outside of work as well. So this episode is very lengthy, and I'm not apologizing for that, but it's about a lot of random things that have been on my mind. And a lot of that is kind of learning how to accept yourself for who you are, and not fighting it, and kind of just going with the flow. Like, go towards the direction where your body and your mind and your soul and everything like that feels good, because then that's where you'll flourish. Don't fight. Like, obviously try hard and get uncomfortable, but after a little bit, if it's not working out for you, it's just not working out for you, and it's not for you. So sometimes you just have to go into that realm of comfort in order for you to grow, if that makes sense. I've just been kind of thinking about and reflecting about how maybe I am an introvert, but growing up, it's like, you do think extroverts are the more successful people, and that's not necessarily true. It's more like they're just successful in a different way, right? Like, they may be a little bit like, they may be able to look like or show that they have success, but there's people who are introverts and that are kind of more behind the scenes that are successful as well. So that's kind of something I've been teaching myself is that I'm not necessarily the personality in front of the camera. I could probably be more of the behind the scenes kind of director person that I really don't really want to become. It's just some sort of example. Because I've been fighting this whole trying to be in front of the camera thing. Obviously, for this podcast, it feels a little different. It feels a little more comforting. Even though I'm in front of the camera, it's a little different for some reason for me. But essentially, I'm leaning into it without any expectations. And sometimes it's just time to put the expectations down, let things happen, go with the flow, go with what your gut is telling you, and just try it out. A lot of us are so scared of trying things, and honestly, I am too. I clearly have tried a million things and have failed a million things, but I'm still here and I'm still trying and I'm still going for something. I don't know what that is yet, but we just don't know what it is until, I guess we go through it. So if you're scared of failing something, just use me as a reference. I've tried a lot of different things and I'm switching a lot of times and I don't know. And clearly I keep changing my mind about things. I'm very fickle in general, and that's why people were a little concerned when Aaron started dating me, is because I am just very fickle. I change my mind a lot. But look, we're 11 years down. Not a lot of expectations when me and my husband first met, and it worked. So I'm clearly very fickle, and hopefully something will stick eventually. Hopefully it's this podcast. Hopefully it's something else. Hopefully it's this mini career change I'm going through. Hopefully it's this fostering journey I'm going through and still going through, even though it's a lot, but it's great. What I'm just trying to say is I encourage you to lean into it. Lean into something with zero expectations. Yeah, I don't know. It's been feeling really good to just accept who I am and just going with the flow, which is something I don't normally do because I tend to have some control issues, and that's okay. The biggest thing I've been thinking about lately is putting people's expectations of me or who I am away and just figuring out who I truly am by journaling, by sitting with my feelings, which is scary, and essentially putting my ego away. It's really hard to actually keep going with your life and understanding and fulfilling things that will, or doing things that will fulfill you truly if you have all these people kind of breathing down your neck about who you have to be or who you think you should be because of how you grew up. So my biggest thing is not only journal, and I know that's very everyone tells me to do it. It actually works if you actually do it. I am someone who does not like homework. I'm someone who does not like writing. I even went from if you know me, I'd rather have everything just tech form because it's so much easier to, switch, and everything is on my laptop, on my phone, on my iPad, whatever it is, and just switching it all around. But I actually have a physical journal that I physically use an actual pen to write in now. And it has made a world of a difference, maybe from distractions, but really just sit with yourself, be alone, and journal. And put your ego away. No one's watching you journal. No one's listening to you journal. This is literally for you. And it is scary, but you'll be awakened in a way, or so surprised at what it can do when or who you are when you're just alone. Where if you are in a relationship where you don't have expectations from your partner breathing down your neck, you don't have your parents' expectations, you don't have the expectations from when you were younger or any trauma like that, you're just able to kind of sit there, work through it, and your ego's out the door. It's a great feeling when you put your ego away and you can figure out who you are inside. Truly. And this will then kind of just doesn't take a day. It doesn't take a week. I've been kind of doing this on and off for about 6-ish months or less, probably less. But I've been working on myself and doing all this stuff for at least 3 or 4 years, very heavily. And I do feel like knock on wood, I don't know if there's like anything real wood around here. One sec. That things are coming together even with the chaos that is happening in my head. And I'm excited for that. So if you did reach this point of the podcast, it's a very long episode. Well, not very long. I feel like it was like longer-ish than I thought. I thought it would be longer than what has been recorded, to be honest. And I just wanted to let things out, kind of like a friend, hoping someone is listening and is like, I'm just putting my feelings and thoughts out there, hoping someone will listen. So there's a lot of randomness in this episode, and I hope there's some help there. I just feel like I've been using these skills or coping mechanisms or these thoughts that have really, really helped and changed my life for the better, even though it's taking forever. And I hope I think 2 or 3 little applicable tips from this episode help you in your life of whatever it is that you're going through. I just want to remind you that life sucks and it's really hard sometimes, and you have to sometimes put society away, your family's thoughts of you away, your partner's thoughts of you away, in order to figure out who you truly are. Because even if you, let's say, take a day off from work to try to help figure out who you are, or just help with burnout, you're able to then keep going further, if that makes sense. If you figure out who you are, then you're able to become your genuine self. And when you're your genuine self, hopefully then you're able to step out of your comfort zone in a healthy way, or at least go get into your full potential and discover what your purpose might be in this world, or what your passion is, or everyone's really different. So I just hope this episode helped you in some way. There is this exercise that I'm going to be doing for next week's episode, and it's from the book Your Best Year Ever. So it's by Michael Hyatt. I'll put that down in the description below. Okay, I'm not too sure what it's called, but there is a specific exercise where I will do it with you, kind of similar to the other episode, which I'll link down below, where the Tim Ferriss one, where I kind of went through each question, and then it'll be a little bit more homework for you. And then, yeah, I'll do it kind of live-ish / obviously unscripted, because all of these episodes are basically unscripted. I literally have a topic or two in my head and I just talk. So I'm going to try to do this exercise with you. But yeah, the next week is going to have a little bit of homework if you want to join in. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.